and welcome to realityfuturestrading.com. In today's video, I am continuing my series on DTS, and you don't need them all to get started. Typically, as a rule of thumb, we suggest that you use a 6-tick mean Renko bar with the Hawk Micro Scalper. However, I myself personally find myself using various size bars for various reasons and different markets as well. Now right now we're looking at the NQ for August 16th of 2012. As you can see, we had this beautiful move here to the upside. Now a couple things I need to point out about how I actually trade the Hawk Micro Scalper. I want to point out that I do not take these one bar pullbacks. I know, you're probably saying, Ray, you miss out, and quite often I do miss out, but I prefer to see a 2-bar pullback and have at least a little bit of room to get up there against that high of the day. The other thing that I really like to see is this trade right here. I get this huge run up. Now I got a trade here, definitely got my first target. If I use my pivot as my stop, technically I'm still in this trade. I would have survived it by a couple of ticks, but what I really like to see is I like to see it pull back, and I like to see it slam into the micro trend line. And the more room that I have between the high of the day, or in a case of selling short, the more room between the low of the day, the happier I am. So this is a 6-tick chart. Let's go ahead and let's see what it looks like with an 8-tick chart. Okay, now we are looking at an 8-tick mean Renko chart. Now, because I am using an 8-tick mean Renko chart, you're going to notice that I get fewer signals. Sometimes that's actually what I'm looking for. The million-dollar question is, geez, Ray, how do I filter out some of these bad signals? Well, unfortunately, the market is what the market is, and it's going to do what it's going to do, and it is trading, and sometimes bad trades happen. However, what I've figured out is what I like to do when it's a slower, sloppier day, like with what we had right here, using an 8-tick chart helps filter out even more noise. Now, I do change my rules a little bit with an 8-tick chart in that when I have an 8-tick chart, I no longer require a 2-bar pullback. I need at least 1 bar, of course, to make a signal, and then I'm off to the races. And once again, I'm always using my recent pivots as stops. I like a tight stop just as much as the next person does. However, realistically, we do need to give our trades a little bit of wiggle room. Nothing worse than getting stopped out prematurely. And frankly, I find that with the Hawk Micro Scalper, whether it's a 6 or whether it's an 8, I prefer to use the most recent pivot as my stop. All right, now let's go ahead and let's take a look at this choppy area right here. You will notice one thing. It is lingering around the Globex Open, which is the orange line here, and it's also lingering around the regular trading hour open. These trades, for the most part, I don't care which one of the DTS signal generators I'm working with. If I'm hanging around the Globex Open or the regular trading hour open, I tend to back off. So granted, maybe I missed out on this initial move right here because I'm using an 8 range. However, I would have waited until it rose and started to get away from the open anyway. So in my opinion, I'm not out anything. Okay, what I have done here is I've switched back to my 6-tick mean Renko brick. Once again, the dead giveaway is going to be it's just snaking back and forth across the regular trading hour as well as the Globex Open. So I'm really not interested in taking advantage of that anyway. Now the other thing that you're going to notice is, if you remember on the 8-tick mean Renko chart, we didn't have any of these yellow bars. So one of the things that I would suggest doing is not only have a 6 range Hawk Micro Scalper brought up, but you can also have an 8 range Hawk Micro Scalper chart brought up. Now, one of the things one of my students had suggested was, and he asked, is there any way we can use the Micro Scalper for a longer time frame chart? Well, the answer is yes. All you've got to do, right click on your chart, data series, instead of a 6 range, you know what, let's make it a 12. Let's see what it looks like. There you have it. Now, we only get one valid signal, although I did have room to get to the high of the day, and it did take off. But you can use this chart for an overall big picture as well. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using one signal generator with different size bars. The only thing that you've got to keep in mind is if you are going to use a bigger bar, you do need to take into account you will more than likely have a much bigger stop. All right, well, I hope that you found this video informative. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to contact me at ray@realityfuturestrading.com. The whole point of making this video was to show you that with a little bit of creativity, you can take one simple system and you can do a lot of different things with it. Granted, DTS was designed for 3 different signal generators for either the same or various markets to give us more opportunities. However, as you saw in the video, with just one system, you do get your fair share of opportunities. All right, thanks again and have a great day.